Married man of Reddit. What moment with your future wife made you think, "Yep, I'm asking this girl to marry me"? The short version is that she saved my life. The less short version is that I'm from Michigan. Back in December 2014, I was in Delaware for a business trip. I ended up getting food poisoning, which brought on DKA. For those non-diabetes, basically your blood gets poisoned and your body tries to fight it off, which proves to be futile. I was vomiting constantly and kept drifting in and out of consciousness. My wife, then girlfriend, called me about 20 or 30 times before I finally answered. The only thing I could force myself to say was, "Hi baby, I'm really sick." Then I blacked out again. What seemed like 5 minutes passed, which was actually about 12 to 13 hours, when I heard a banging on my hotel room door. I heard my girlfriend's voice yelling, "It's me, let me in!" I screamed as loud as I could, "Get in here, get in here!" Then I blacked out. I woke up in the hospital a day later. I found out that when I didn't answer the door, she ran downstairs, got a key, came up, and called an ambulance. The ambulance said that they would be there in 30 minutes. She said, "That's not soon enough." She put me into a rolling computer chair and pushed me to the elevator and out to her car, threw my near-lifeless body in the back seat, and drove me to the hospital. When all was said and done, my body had a blood sugar level of 1,400. My normal range is 110 to 140, and my white blood cell count was around 3,000. I'm not 100% sure about this number, but I know it is high. My wife sat with me for 6 days in the hospital, sleeping in the chair next to me, left to eat but came right back. She didn't leave my side. I should also mention that this was only 4 months after we started dating. However, we had been friends for a few years before this. I found out later that if she would have waited for the ambulance, I would not have made it. She literally saved my life. She sacrificed her time, risked getting fired, and failing classes to drive 13 hours from Michigan to Delaware to take care of me. Once it all hit me as to what she had done, I was completely speechless and realized that if this girl is willing to do something like this for me, I must be pretty special to her. I made it a priority once I recovered to ask her mother and father for their blessing, which they both gave me. I married her in May 2016. One of the scariest things to ever happen to me ended up showing me my girlfriend's devotion and love for me. We just hit our 1-year anniversary, and although we are a young couple, we are still kicking ass and going strong. She invited me to her apartment to cook me dinner. On my way, I picked up a prescription and promptly took the first pill. 5 minutes before dinner was ready, I had an adverse effect and passed out on her couch. Woke up and she was gone. Figured she went to the bar across the street we go to. Nope. As I was getting ready to leave, she returned with a fresh set of clothes and toiletries for me for work the next morning. She walked 9 blocks up the hill to my apartment, got me everything I needed for the next day, and came back. This was our second date. We had a long-distance relationship. We lived 3 to 4 hours away from each other the entire time we dated. We had met at a concert and traded emails and MSN info, classic. We emailed and chatted every day, sometimes for hours. We poured our hearts out about our fears and dreams. I'd go visit her every other weekend, and she'd come once in a while my way. About 3 or 4 months into doing this, I'm at home chilling, playing some game in my room. My dad calls up the stairs that I got a package in the mail. So I, confused, came walking down the stairs. And there she was. She came up to visit as a surprise. Without thinking, I instinctively ran to her and hugged her and lifted her and spun her a bit. And I felt in my heart a wholeness, like holding her filled in something I was missing. I knew then that I never would let her go. Metaphorically speaking, been married over 9 years, and I still get that feeling when I hug and kiss her. I have to post this for my dad. My parents met 39 years ago last Friday in a lineup for a movie. My mom's friend knew my dad from another friend and introduced them. My dad was known as a wild guy, and my mom was seriously considering becoming a nun. Naturally, they started dating. Couple months later, my mom found a lump in her breast. My dad's aunt died of breast cancer very young, and it just freaked him out, I guess. My mother had the lump removed, and thank God it was benign. but my dad had already rushed out and bought an engagement ring. He always claims he knew from the moment he saw her, but a couple of glasses of wine and he will tell you that he saw what life could be like without her, and it wasn't worth living. They never fight, they always work together, and my mom's heart still skips a beat when he comes home from work. In my first week as a licensed paramedic, I had a 2-year-old die on me. When I got off work, I drove to my girlfriend's place and told her about my day. I was pretty numb at that time, trying to process this kid's death despite all my efforts. I lay down on her couch and she just wrapped her arms around me and laid with me for 3 to 4 hours as I tried to process. She didn't push or ask lots of questions, just laid there quietly and held me. I slowly was able to talk my way through it, and then the tears started. She cried with me. I felt the whole world was so dark and ugly, but she was my island of light. Started saving up for a ring that week and asked her to marry me 6 months later. In September, we celebrate our 5-year wedding anniversary. I'm still a paramedic, and she's still my island. I was 18 and just gotten out of a dental appointment where 2 of my wisdom teeth were pulled out. I was drooling, stains of blood all over my shirt, and it was the summertime. My girlfriend at that time was 16, took what little money she had from her allowance, bought me a box of ice cream and biked 25 minutes just to deliver that box of ice cream and see how I was doing. With blood stains all over, she still gave me that look of love and planted a kiss on me. That was almost 20 years ago, and I still can't imagine having a happier life without her in it. Things were going really well, and I was saying to myself, if this keeps up, I think next summer I'll pop the question. Then, my mother had a stroke. We were all sitting in the waiting area outside the ICU, because only 2 people were allowed in at a time. It was my now wife's birthday and a Wednesday, and she didn't hesitate to take the day off to sit with me and my family. I went to visit my father at home, and she came with me. Her Italian instincts kicked in, and she brought a load of groceries and a lasagna with her. My father was a mess at the hospital, and it fell on me and my siblings to speak with the doctors and make plans. I would get home and pour myself some bourbon. She made me dinner and just sat with me while I silently sobbed. It wasn't about how great we were when things were good. It was about how perfect she was when things were bad. I bought the ring 2 months later. We had a fight and she was so chill about it. I was in the wrong and was just in a jerk mood. Right away, she talked to me in a mellow voice and explained why I made her feel shitty and that I should take 2 days of radio silence to think about it. None of this, you should know what is wrong, even though I told you nothing is wrong. And none of that yelling and or talking my ears off for hours. And awesomely giving me the time I need to figure it out. I was like, yes, I can live with this. My then girlfriend and I had gotten into a huge fight. We were doing long distance at the time as she was going to school, 2.5 hours away from where I was going to school. We were planning on going to school in the same place after that semester, but we had only been dating for a few months. The fight was about a lot of things, but it was one of those fights that are so bad that both parties were constantly in tears and questioning everything about oneself. She decided she wanted to drive down to come see me so that we could talk as soon as possible. I was driving to the Chili's where we decided to meet at to eat and talk. I was so angry and upset about some of the things she said to me and the things I said to her. I didn't know how this would work out. We pulled into the parking lot around the same time and we both got out of our cars. We just looked at each other and ran towards one another and gave each other the biggest of hugs, both crying. In that moment, I knew I wanted to marry her. I knew no matter how bad it would get, I would always just want to be with her. We worked out the fight within minutes. I proposed a month later. Now we have been married for a year and it's been the happiest year of my life. I was at a party I didn't want to be at when I met her. She ended up getting really drunk, got touchy-feely with me, and I took her home. After a fun night, so to speak, we woke up and she was getting ready to leave. I said, "Hey, let me get your number." And she says, "Oh, I don't think so," very seriously. She watched my face drop, gave it a beat, and then said, "Just kidding." It was early on, but I knew she was going to be a good time. 10 years later, she's still busting my balls and making me laugh. I don't even care how cliche it is, I knew the first moment I saw her. It was this super weird feeling of intuition that I'd never felt before, and that never went away. It was like, yep, you're going to marry her someday. In the meantime, you should figure yourself out because you're kind of a giant tool right now. We did not even date until 5 years later, dated other people and had our own lives, and during that whole time, she was just this little seed waiting patiently in the back of my subconsciousness. Marriage has been at times euphoric and at times agonizing. Right now, it's better than ever. Our second baby will be born next week. It actually happened without much fanfare. We were in bed one night before going to sleep, talking about our relationship and our future. We had already bought a house together and had a dog, and we had talked about marriage in the past, but it wasn't a huge priority for either of us. Talking about how cool it would be to have our wedding be like a reunion with a lot of old friends made it seem really appealing. And we knew that we both would be staying together for pretty much the rest of our lives. She ended up just saying it in the end. So, do you want to? And I said, yeah, I guess I do. It makes sense. And everything happened from there. Completely and wholly unromantic. Yay for us! We are now coming up on 8 years of marriage with 2 kids. We dated most of high school, but we split up our first year of college. I had ran into her out somewhere and we kind of reconnected. Anyways, she texts me asking if I wanted to go camping with her on the beach. I asked, who's all going? And she told me just me and her. I was like, okay, cool, I'm down. She comes to pick me up from my house and we head out straight to the beach. We get to the beach and start unloading her trunk. She had packed a 2-person tent. She had a basket packed with the sandwiches and snacks for us. Then the cherry on top was when she said, I got you a 12-pack of beer. I asked my brother to get it for you. We were 20 at the time. That was when I knew I was marrying her. We are married now with a beautiful, healthy baby boy. I don't know what I did in my life to deserve this wonderful woman, but I'm glad I did it. Not married yet, but we'll be getting engaged sometime later this year. I've probably known I was going to marry her since I was in high school, but I think the moment that solidified it to me was in college. We have been dating each other for over 10 years, if you can count middle school dating as official, which we do. And we have only really been apart for about a year when we were both freshmen in college. We took a break to see what the single life was all about and grow as people when we were both away from home. I can't completely speak for her, but it wasn't the best time either of us had. Did a little dating in that time, but never really stopped thinking about each other. After the year ended, we decided to get back together after a pretty emotional get-together. Our sophomore year, we had some speed bumps, but it was one of the first times I specifically remember knowing for a fact that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. We were laying on my bed in my apartment just watching some Netflix and we both fell asleep. I woke up first and remember looking down at her and just getting this feeling that I couldn't let her go again. Now it's 4 years later, we have been living together for almost 6 months now, and I am going to be buying a ring sometime in the next few weeks. No one is going to see this, but oh well. This isn't flashy, it's not going to make an amazing Hollywood movie. The moment I knew I was going to ask her to marry me was the moment I accepted that I could live without her. I just didn't want to. It was that moment that I recognized being with her was a mutual choice, not a dependency. I had the self-awareness to know I could lead a happy life. But this woman made everything happier. I am one of the most genuinely lucky people I know. I am not the wealthiest, best looking, or most popular, but I deeply, deeply love my wife. She is the center of my universe. It's not because she's given me this Hollywood fairy tale of what marriage is supposed to be like. It's because she's given me something real, something tangible, and something I can fight for. Through the ups and downs, the arguments and laughter, the sickness and health, I realized that I may not always like her, but I deeply love her. And that love is not based on one thing, but all things. And it's amazing when you see the woman you love day after day, year after year, and you just keep seeing the same person you first met. I kid you not, every single day I have this revelation, no matter how amazing or frustrating of a day I have. Every day I would ask her to marry me, and every day I would marry her again.